Hi, and welcome to Sing by Sight Interview with Singers. In this session, I am absolutely thrilled to introduce you to a wonderful friend of mine, a wonderful singer, a really great guy, all-round marvellous musician, Mr. Iain Mackenzie. Hello, Iain.
Hello. Well,
Hi.
nice intro. Thank you.
It's
How
a
are
pleasure.
you?
You told me to big you up, so I
Yeah,
did.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, make me look good, all right?
Okay, we're off to a good start, guys.
Yeah,
So, Iain, listen, I've got you in today to talk a little bit about yourself and also a little bit about sight singing later on. That's kind of
yeah.
part of the point of this is to talk about sight singing. But before we get to that, can I ask you, because you've done a load of things throughout your career, can I ask you, how did you start? What instrument did you start playing? Was it always singing? And where did you start your music career?
I started singing as a kid. So I went to church and did choir with my parents, and they spotted that I was into it and really enjoyed it. And so someone suggested that I might be good enough to become a chorister.
Oh,
And the organist at the time said, "No, he's not good enough to be a chorister,"
I like his
But
thinking.
yeah, but then the sub organist said of the church said, "Oh, he really is good enough." And so my mum and dad said, "Do you want to audition for some of these choir schools?" So I went to uh, I went to a couple where I was 9 at the time, and I went to a couple where they said, "Oh no, you're too old." And it's
No.
like, so 9 was too old for Westminster Abbey and St Paul's. And so then the next one, literally the next one on the list was Durham, which is like 350 miles away for me because we're London. And my parents went, "What do you think?" And I went, "Yeah, it looks nice. Let's do it." So I went up there and had a look and really fell in love with the place and did the audition and got in. And so,
Wow.
yeah, started as a chorister.
Oh my
And so
word.
singing was the first thing. And that was, um, I mean, I also started piano at the age of 7,
Yeah.
and so that was my dad. My dad was a classical pianist, not professional, but then he did go on to do some teaching.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was it really. I took up trumpet when I was in Durham as well.
Wow.
Um, only kind of got up to grade 6, I think, in the trumpet. I just found that I had a terrible technique,
That's not
I
helpful.
yeah, and my valves kept sticking, and
Oh.
I used to get really because I'm pushing it against my face too hard and stuff, and it was just like, yeah, it was just I didn't get on with it, but I still have one and I still play it occasionally. But
Yeah.
piano and voice were my
Okay,
things,
cool.
and voice was always the main thing at first.
What was it like going to cathedral school? Because I'm assuming you then you're boarding, aren't you? That's a whole world, isn't it? That's a
Oh
whole
yeah,
new
yeah. You can't
world.
commute from London to Durham, so yeah, we were literally we were boarding, and you have to be a boarder to be a chorister anyway,
Mm.
because it's so busy because
Mm.
you're literally getting up, and before you have breakfast, you go to choir rehearsal,
Wow.
and you do the rehearsal in the morning for an hour, and then you come home and have breakfast, and then you get on with your school day, and then you come back and you do the even song service
Yeah.
every night except for one night, which is men only.
Yeah.
Um, but it's and then on Sundays 3 services, and so
Gosh,
it's
that's
pro
really intense,
it's
isn't it?
intense and and there's a lot of reading going on, obviously, with that, and
Now, normally I
yeah,
talk about sight singing at the end of the interview, but I actually am going to talk about it here because could
yeah.
you sight sing before you went to Durham?
I did have some elements that were just because I'd started so young,
Mhm.
and I'd just been in a choir. I never had any kind of lessons in solfege or anything like that.
Mm.
It was purely just rehearsal, and so you would use your ear and you would pick it
Yeah.
up and you'd look at the music and you'd use your ear and eventually it correlates.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they talk back and they say go back 2 bars, and someone will just go there. Oh right, okay, and you just do it and you learn that way,
Yeah.
and by osmosis really. But um, yeah, obviously once I'd got the basics down, then when people started talking technically to me, as far as the reading process was concerned, you'd understand, and you would have to up your game. You'd have to make sure you're on it, especially when in the chorister school, because you used to. I mean, this was back in the day when you used to get the cane for things, and and all that sort of stuff, and so it's like, and so if we got stuff wrong, if we mucked stuff up in the service, sometimes we wouldn't get the cane for that, but we'd have to write out service sheets. He would say, right, you guys are gonna have to write me out 100, not 100, maybe 10 service sheets each by tomorrow, and so you'd learn very quickly not to
make mistakes. Yeah. And interestingly, did you ever learn solfege, or did you always just learn the more traditional G, A, B, C, D, and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it was mainly just the note names. I understand solfege now, but I don't. I mean, only a bit. It's like, it's not something that I would want to teach myself, just because I it's not something that I've been brought up with. So yeah.
And sometimes when you've learnt the letter names, to then do solfege, it's like you're putting something in the middle as opposed to just getting on and reading. You're kind of thinking, why am I reading the letter names, then thinking of solfege, then singing? I just need to sing. Yeah. So exactly. How long did you spend at cathedral school?
Well, I was 9 until your voice breaks, or your fifth, the term before you're 14, I think. So 5 years. Basically.
Oh wow, that must have been amazing. Actually,
it was amazing, and it was a little bit like Harry Potter world. We used to walk over to the cathedral in the winter with mortarboards and cloaks. Yeah. And
did you have a wandy? And
I had a wand. Yeah.
Expelliarmus.
Yeah. No, but we had to. I mean, it was amazing. It was quite magical. I mean, some of the stuff was, it was quite scary being so young and away from home, but it was. It was looking back on it, it was fantastic.
And that repertoire of music is just amazing as well, isn't it?
I don't go to church anymore, but if I did, it would be just to listen to the music, And sometimes when I do, I mean, the music is just incredible, and I still love it,
Yeah, because it's written for the acoustics of a church. Yeah. And so you're singing the music in the correct surroundings, where the acoustics just heighten absolutely everything you're singing, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Just beautiful. Yeah. So listen, so you're 14. Was it 14? Did you say 14?
Yeah, that's when I left. Yeah.
And then what did you do?
Then I went to I got a half scholarship to Aldenham School, but my parents still couldn't afford to send me there, so I went to Watford Boys Grammar, and I rebelled for a little bit and didn't do any music for a while and stuff. It's like, no, it's not my thing anymore, man. Yeah. And then towards the sixth form, I started getting into sort of more like the fifth form, maybe. Started getting into bands with mates, and that's kind of what made me sort of veer away from. I didn't want to do any more classical church music and stuff like that. I wanted to get into. I was getting into punk and rock and roll and blues, a lot of blues. And I had a Fender Rhodes, and I was in a band, and I was doing stuff like that. Yeah. And so started singing more bluesy and jazzy stuff. And it was really when I discovered my mum's vinyl collection of 60s Sinatra, Sinatra Basie and the Billy May Come Dance With Me album. That I just went, blimey, what's this, and started really getting into the Sinatra stuff, and that led me to other jazz.
Yeah, because there's quite a leap, without you having said that to me, there is quite a leap from cathedral school through to singing what you sing now. That's really quite a long distance.
But there's quite a big connection with the harmony, I think, and the intricacy of the music,
Yeah. Did you keep playing the piano throughout this?
Yeah. This was, but I mean, I kind of got myself up to grade 8 piano, and actually, I got myself up to grade 7 piano and had to do grade 8 to get into music college. Oh. Because I wanted to be an architect, and I just didn't get the grades for that at all.
It was your rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah, that was it. and then I said, oh well, actually, maybe I do want to do music, and then I sort of started looking into it, and I thought, yeah, I actually really do want to do music. When I found out that there was a degree course in Leeds for in jazz, and I was like, that's what I want to do.
Oh, fantastic. So aged 18, 19, you headed up to Leeds then?
Went up to Leeds, did 3 years in Leeds. Yeah, I mean, it was the only, at the time, it was the only proper 3-year jazz course available. And yeah, met some fantastic people there and did lots and lots of playing, lots and lots of performing. And then after that, I did the postgrad at the Guildhall.
Wow.
1 year.
So thinking about going up to Leeds and all that sort of stuff, I will ask about sight singing again. Was that involved there? And had you kept up your sight singing speed and skills?
Oh yeah, I mean the first thing that happened was actually I went to Leeds and auditioned when I was 18, because I'd been so indecisive about what I was doing, and I went up there and they said, listen, and I actually went as a pianist.
Oh right.
I actually thought, well, maybe I had no idea you could go as a singer, and so I thought I'm gonna have to do it as a pianist, because it kind of I thought singing's not going to be it's not going to be good enough. It's not going to be technical enough to get you a degree, surely. So I sort of went as a pianist, and they said, yes, your playing is up to the standard, but your theory isn't good enough. And so I took a year off, and I did my grade 8 piano, and I did my grade 8 theory.
Yeah.
And then I went back and auditioned, and they went, yes, you're in. So I had to definitely up my game, my theory game, because it was essential for doing all of the harmony classes and the big band reading classes and stuff like that.
So when they accepted you, was this when you eventually went? Was that on piano or was that singing?
That was on piano.
Wow, I didn't know this.
Yeah, I was a first study pianist for a year.
Oh.
And then I realized that the other pianists were just amazing.
Okay.
And I was working more as a singer. I'd had no idea that you could be a singer on it. And so after a year I went, I'm going to change to being singing, to being first study, because I was first study piano, second study voice, and I changed to just turned it around the other way, and it was so much more successful for me,
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. And like you say, you made lots of contacts up there and met people and got involved.
Absolutely. Yes. It's all about the contacts, I think. I mean, obviously the classes had some fantastic tutors up there, Tony Faulkner and I mean, my piano tutor was Dave Smith, and Sarah Gilbertson.
There you go. No,
Sarah did my last year. Thank you. Yeah, Sarah Gilbertson did my last year. I had Val Boulard prior to that, and Val was very classical, and then Sarah was a jazz singer. I was like, whoa,
yeah, Sarah's great.
Yeah, that was good. It was good having Sarah, and then Lee Gibson at the Guildhall.
Fab. Yeah. And what was so why did you go to the Guildhall then? What was all that about?
Well, it was it felt like a rite of passage. It was the thing that everyone did.
Oh, okay.
And it was just kind of, so you do 3 years there, and if you want to carry on studying, it's the Guildhall, There was the academy wasn't really in existence at the time for jazz.
I mean, I was at Trinity, and we did have we had jazz players, and we had a big band. Trinity was the first college to have the big band, but we didn't have a jazz course. So there was amazing musicians. And
yes, I remember that.
But we didn't have
there was classical. You had to go to a classical course and do jazz as a side sort of line, didn't you? But that was it. Leeds and the Guildhall were the only two places where you could go purely as a jazz performer, So
that's fantastic as well.
Yeah, it was great.
And it's really a great foresight of these places to realise, A, that these type of courses do have credibility and can hold their own on degree level, and B, that there is a need for these type of courses because the musicians need somewhere to go to get all the information in one place.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because back then we didn't have the internet.
No, I know. I mean, just back then I remember having to go to the library and check out vinyl
Yeah, yeah.
recordings. Go to the library, check out vinyl recordings, and there was um, uh, a system on the vinyl recordings where you could speed up and slow down things for transcribing.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
for listening to stuff and actually trying to work out solos and stuff like
Yeah,
that, that was the only way of doing it. Was
yeah,
you could make it slower, but obviously the pitch would also
yeah, 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 yeah,
drop
yeah.
because you're slowing it
Sarah
down
Vaughan would
on.
become Louis Armstrong and
Yeah,
all that sort of
exactly,
stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So
listen. Oh,
mm,
sorry. You were going to say?
no, I was.
All right, brilliant. Sorry, Ian, sorry.
That's all
So
right.
what I was going to lead on to now is from the Guildhall, you've gone on to have a super successful career, really fabulous. Yeah, just tell me some of the things that you've done, some of the highlights. Leave out the lowlights.
Um,
Don't worry about them, Ian. Just the highlights.
well, I'm the principal male vocalist for the Ronnie Scott's Jazz Orchestra,
Yeah,
and BBC Big Band with you.
yeah,
And what else do I do? I mean, I've done all sorts of different bits of bobs, lots of backing vocals for people, and lots of film score
yeah. Movie
recordings and things
soundtracks.
with you, movie soundtracks.
Yeah,
But yeah, I've done one of the Strictly Come Dancing tours for 10 years with Brendan Cole.
yeah.
And at the moment, I'm doing Tony Blackburn's Sounds of the 60s, which is on
Fabulous.
tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at Ronnie's last night actually, so that
Oh,
was good. We
fabulous.
did the Mel Torme Marty Page Dectet
Oh,
stuff,
wow.
which was fantastic.
So listen, you have to put lots of different hats on because not all these jobs require the same approach vocally, do they?
No, no, I mean, absolutely. The obviously the jazz and the big band stuff is one thing, but then doing the sort of Strictly Come Dancing style stuff, sometimes I would be doing Michael Jackson followed by Frank Sinatra, and you
Yeah.
sort of you're going, oh, I'm up here, no, I'm down there, so
And then and during live performance, you're quite free. You're quite able to express yourself. You can interpret things on the evening, no matter what style you're singing. But then put your studio hat on, where you're providing backing vocals. Again, that's another discipline, isn't it?
oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you have to be accurate with those
Yeah.
things. It's not about jamming it or
Yeah.
using your ear or interpreting it. It's about reading it.
Yeah,
It's like
it is, isn't
that
it?
stuff is you've just got to sing the ink, as they say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think the other thing as well is when, you or me, if I'm doing a session and singing or whatever, it's not about me. It's about the job you've been hired for, whether that's to
Absolutely.
sing a movie soundtrack or whether that's to sing backing vocals for someone. It's not about me. It's about the job. Do you find that as well, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that yeah, you definitely have to put on a different hat, and that's where actually I think that the Durham chorister training for me really did help, because it's all about blending with the people around you,
Yeah,
and trying to make it sound like one.
yeah,
Or sometimes it's not one. Sometimes you're doing a session and you have to read it and it's just you. But
yeah,
again, like you say, you have to cut the cloth according to
yeah,
the client's needs.
yeah. And I guess so also, actually, interestingly, Durham would have given you, would have instilled in you discipline as well, because that, whether it's vocally or mentally, because those two things are really important in the business as well, aren't they? Well, do you feel
Yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm so childish the rest of the time.
Oh, is that it? Ah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
knew there was a reason, Ian. It's because you're
No,
so professional.
I need a release. No, but
Yeah,
but no, you're right. It does make you. I'm never late for anything.
mm,
That's the first thing. I will always be early. I will always be there with whatever the gear that I need,
mm,
pressed perfectly or whatever.
mm,
The shirt's pressed perfectly, but sharpened pencil,
yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah,
With the equipment that I need, it's definitely something that that professional approach and attitude is
yeah.
an essential part of being a working musician.
Yes, being a working musician and having a career
Yeah,
that lives and that kind of keeps moving. So if I was to talk about sight singing now, I mean, what was the most recent job you sight sang on?
Well, sights sang was I did Tuesday and Wednesday this last week. I
Mm,
had a session up at Chris Taylor's
mm,
place in Peterborough with four singers,
yeah,
and we were doing what you call a tracking session,
yep,
which is the one where you're layering up, obviously layering up vocals. So you'll sing a line, um, and then you'll track it. You'll sing it
yeah,
again, and then you'll do it again. So three or four times you're doing it to make it sound like a choir,
yeah,
and you get paid accordingly for that, obviously,
yeah,
because people you can't just put people a 24-piece choir out of work or whatever.
mm,
You know, they have to make sure they pay us
yeah,
properly for tracking,
yeah.
which is great. So it's good money, and
And that was all reading.
that was, oh yes, literally. There's no practice. It's like, I mean, you might sing it once and go, let's have another go at that one, you know. But most of the time they want you to get your note, sing it, and say we're going to go from letter B to letter D,
Yeah,
and they might comment on something, say, okay, can you knock a quaver off the end of bar 34,
yeah,
and can you put some staccato dots over the top of the crotchets in 35, and let's go for it. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
and
yeah,
then and then you just do it. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard work. It's really focused work. I mean, this was from 10 until 6 with an
wow,
hour lunch break,
wow. So
and
absolutely on it.
yeah, and a tea break in the morning, a tea break in the afternoon.
Yeah,
But basically, you're most of the time you're doing stuff for an hour and a half, focused,
yeah,
2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours, focused reading.
wow. That and
Yeah,
that is tough. That's really tiring, actually, isn't it? Because
yeah,
somebody can be working for an hour and a half and be really, really busy, but it's, if your brain is looking at that, then over here, it's totally different from if you're looking for an hour and a half at pieces of music. It's a
yeah,
totally different form of
yeah.
concentration.
And
Yeah,
standing
yeah.
just for that amount
Oh,
of
yeah.
time, and just making sure your posture's right
Mm,
for breathing and
yeah,
for blending and stuff like that. So it's,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's hard work, but it pays well, you know. So it's
yeah.
like one of those things that you
You're rewarded for your skills.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And what was the scariest? I mean, I'm sure that was a bit scary, but what's the scariest sight singing job you've ever done? Where have you walked in and thought to yourself, oh, this is,
Oh, okay. I did an album. I did an album for Don Black
oh, wow, wow,
of new music
yeah,
that he'd just written. And I had to go into a studio, and I hadn't been given anything beforehand, and it was just putting dots in front of me to sing this stuff. I
yeah,
mean, it wasn't a case of you've got to get it right first time.
mm,
There was some time to have a knock through it and
yeah,
stuff, but it was still very intimidating. Going, oh
yeah,
my God, the actual composer is in the room with me. You know, this is the man who wrote Diamonds Are Forever and
yeah,
Thunderball and all that stuff, and you sort of
yeah,
go, okay,
yeah.
um,
And
yeah.
the difficult thing there is to still be able to produce the goods, whatever they are, under pressure.
Well, this is it. It's under
Yeah,
pressure. You're reading, and you're going, do they like me?
yeah,
You know, at the same time, do they
yeah,
like my voice? You know, do
yeah,
they like my sound? You know, is it
yeah,
right? You know, God, should I try and make it sound more like Tom Jones? I
yeah,
don't know. It's
yeah,
like, you know, it's very intimidating, that sort of thing. But you know,
yeah,
knowing that I can look down at the dots and go, okay, I know what I'm doing. It's cool.
yeah,
It's a very sort of,
mm,
at least there's a respect that people sort of offer you for the fact that they know, they go, great, really, you really nailed that.
yeah,
um
yeah. So would you say, oh, how important would you say? I'm not going to say sight singing that everyone's brilliant, because everyone doesn't have to be brilliant at sight singing. I don't feel, I feel if, I think my thing really, Ian, is that people need to have enough knowledge, just so as that they've got some equipment, some knowledge. They're equipped with something when they walk in. Do you feel that's
yeah,
important?
massively. I mean, there's very few jobs that I won't be offered some sort of music for. You know,
Mm,
even Ronnie's last night, with the band leader Callum Howe had all scores written out for me, vocal parts written out for me for everything. Fortunately, I'd done my homework and I'd learnt it all inside out, so I didn't need to read them. But I certainly did read them when I was at home, doing my homework, you know, and especially looking through stuff and just going, okay, God, you know, how am I going to make that entry easier? And looking through stuff and going, okay, and you could look through the other scores or whatever. You could look through the full score. You can go, okay, the second trumpet plays my note, or whatever, you know, that sort of thing. Or just before I come in, or you know, you just work it out by being able to, you know, look at it and read it, and also just being able to look at, for me as well, I mean, being able to look at the harmony, you know, being able to read the chord symbols and things like that as well is very, very useful, I would say.
I mean, your reading level is good. Your reading level is very good, you know, and I guess your reading level is very good. And I'm kind of thinking, I suppose, of people who aren't as good as you, maybe don't have such a broad background in music and such a broad background and talent, such broad talent. So this idea that somebody walks in somewhere and is handed a piece of music and does not know where to start, I mean, I just think that's sad in a way, because
that would be terrifying for me. I mean, the idea of that's the worst possible scenario for me, is just going and not knowing what I'm doing. So
just lost.
If someone handed me something that I looked at and I just didn't know what it was, I would just be like, this is the most stressful thing in the world. I want to go home now.
And I think that's because you come from a point of being a perfectionist, and doing things properly, and
being in control of the situation because of it, you know.
And the moment you're in control of that element, then you're in control of your vocal performance, then you're in control of your visual performance.
Absolutely. It's a knock-on effect. I mean, everything, you know, if you can relax, if you can go, okay, that bit's covered, I can focus on this bit, you know, then
the whole package then becomes, you know, much better. Even if you're in a studio and you don't have to do a visual performance, you've still got to perform in front of that microphone, and that voice has to give a performance, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Iain, listen, that is fantastic. Have you got anything else you'd like to say about sight singing? I should have asked. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, one of the things that really helped me with sight singing as well was not necessarily just helped me, but I find helps people who I teach as well, students that I teach, is choir work, singing with other people, and being able to read, obviously, is often the only way of being in a choir. There's a few choirs now that do everything by ear, but back in the day, certainly, and for intricate stuff, you have to be able to read it. And so if you're wanting to do close harmony stuff, for example, then you have to be able to read that. There's no doubt about it. And
for me, I feel being able to read allows you to work in some of the most exciting situations, you know, because singing in close harmony vocal groups now, it's such a buzz, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing like it, actually. It's one of the most unbelievable feelings, singing when you're singing it, you know, a semitone next to the person next to you, and it sounds nice. You know, it's like, wow, how does this work? You know, I still don't understand that the sonority thing, you know, how you get this dissonance, and then suddenly, you know, when there's four notes there, it's like, oh, the sonority is
the harmony makes sense. You filled it out, and I understand, you know. And then when something resolves as well, when chords resolve, that is just wonderful as well. Listen, Iain, I could carry on talking to you for ages and ages, and I know we have spent many an evening chit-chatting and everything, but thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed for Sing by Sight.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and all the best with all your future projects. Guys out there, Iain is an absolutely amazing talent, and we will be you'll have seen along the bottom all of Iain's social connections and that, so please check him out. Check out all his material. He's done some amazing projects, so check it all out. Okay, take care, Iain. Lots of love.
Cheers, Emer. Bye.
Bye.